Welcome in, guys. This is the Fantasy Football Academy. Today we are talking week 1 starts and sits. Football is 2 days away. The Chiefs Lions are starting on Thursday. I am super excited. Johnny, Blake, how you guys doing? You guys ready for some football?
I
Dude,
feel like I've been waiting my whole life.
I
yeah,
know.
more excited than the birth of my daughter, for sure. This is best time of the year, those last couple days before the season starts.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I mean, listen, this has been a long ride. We're finally here. I think everyone's drafts are pretty much over. If you're still doing a draft, props to you for waiting this long. It's something to always look forward to. But yeah, we're going to actually get into this video. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So we're going to go into starts this week. And I think, Blake, I want you to lead us off. Who is your start this week?
Yeah, it came down to a couple different guys, but I think the guy that I'd most like to start this week's got to be Keenan Allen in that Dolphins Chargers game. Vegas has the over/under at about 50.5 points, which is right behind the Chiefs game for the highest point total this week, at least what they're projecting. I think it's a battle of those two quarterbacks from, what was that, 2021 draft class, Tua and Herbert. And I think we're all excited to see what that Chargers offense is going to look like under Kellen Moore. Finally, hopefully he'll be able to utilize Herbert. His strengths, throwing the deep ball, getting the ball out in dynamic ways. And I think Keenan Allen is going to be the biggest beneficiary of that new system. Jalen Ramsey going down too is also a bonus. It's a plus. I think the Dolphins secondary, obviously without Ramsey, is not as intimidating as it would be with him. And Keenan should just eat. I like Herbert and Tua to both throw the ball. Could both throw it 40 times in this game. That many pass attempts means a lot of targets to the number one receiver, who the media is saying the focal point of the Chargers offense this year is going to be Keenan Allen. And so he's a lock for me this week one.
I totally agree. That's going to be a high scoring game. It's going to be fun to watch. Johnny, any takes on that?
No, I think we just talked about it before, and I have Keenan Allen and Jahmyr Gibbs as like my flex in a league where I'm very lucky and have a lot of depth. Because that's a good spot to be in, right? But I think we said I'd still lean Gibbs, but it's maybe just because the Enamor is so good. It's that Thursday night game. It's PPR league. But I guess that doesn't really matter because regardless, they're both very dependent. They're going to be dependent on catching Allen and Gibbs. But it's a good problem to have when you're sitting Allen and Blake has him as a start, and we agree it's a great matchup.
Yeah.
But my other wide receivers are Garrett Wilson and Justin Jefferson. So
Jesus, man, that's
it's a
unfair.
dynasty league. Yeah,
No,
even better.
You're living great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. I'm actually going to get into Kirk this week. Kirk Cousins. He's my guy.
You like that? You like that?
I absolutely love Kirk this week. He's going against Tampa. As we know, Tampa has been very solid against the run the past few seasons. I fully expect them not to be like the best team against the run because this is still like a different unit. Tampa's in a rebuilding phase, but they still have a solid front seven. So I fully expect the Vikings to throw the ball all over the field like they did in 2022. So Kurt's going to get plenty of opportunities to score points. He projects to be a top 10 QB in week 1 for me, and I love Kirk Cousins this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think that game should be high scoring. I think the Vikings will handle that game. My only concern is they might be up and won't have to rely on the pass too much, just because I feel like the Bucks offense isn't going to be able to move the ball, and I could see them taking a lead early. But to do that, I think Kirk Cousins is going to have to throw the ball around. So hopefully he gets a lot of points in the first half is all I would say.
I would love to hear Johnny's take since he's such a Vikings hater. He's got everyone buried that wears purple and gold. So, I mean, how do you feel about Kirk? Do you got him at least in your top 10 this week?
Well, what's funny is it's like I also was thinking about Jordan Addison as a potential either sleeper or just full blown start because I do think that he is gonna get them both eating enough. Do you know what I mean? But I also think the Tampa Bay defense is probably not going to be what it's been in years past now that Brady is left. But there's just something about Kirk Cousins to me. Like watching him play or in that quarterback show
On Netflix.
Just, oh, coach, I'm hurt. And I know he's a tough guy. And there's just something about him that's so cheesy.
He's a dad, bro.
Like,
he's a dad.
I would rather, but he's gotten beaten up plenty. I'm sure he's fresh now, but just I'm not overly high on him as my fantasy football quarterback. I'd rather have more of a guy who doesn't feel like it's me taking a hit in the pocket.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. We're actually going to keep it nice.
Probably put up 30 points.
Yeah, I mean, I expect the Vikings to score 30. I wouldn't be too surprised at that. But we are,
for reference, Vegas has that over under at 45.5. So
45. Okay.
Pretty decent. It's about middle of the pack this
week.
It
could happen. 30 could definitely happen. But I think that's going to be it for our starts this week. Want to keep it nice short. You got
Johnny's
one?
Got to get his in.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
No, you're okay. So I was actually super stoked you guys didn't pick him for this one, and I have some really good wide receivers who I'm looking at potentially starting him over, and that's Jahan Dotson. This is a guy who's really productive last year when he was healthy, middle first round pick. And, when you watch the tape, he looks to be Sam Howell's guy. They played that first half against the Baltimore Ravens. Pretty sure both teams played their starters minus Lamar Jackson. And he had 5 catches and 76 yards on 7 targets in just that first half. I think he was earning targets and will continue to do that. He's a really good route runner per reception perceptions profile on him. And I think he's got Howell looking his way. I think McLaurin is a little banged up, and that Jahan Dotson will be the guy to step up this week against a really suspect Cardinals defense. I don't think they want it. I think they know they're going to suck, and they might, make some business decisions tackling him. And Pro Football Network has him as the 32nd rated D, which I don't necessarily disagree with. So he's a strong candidate for me as a flex play or a start. Just put him in your lineup, fire him up.
Yeah, I think Arizona is going to be one of those teams that are going to be picked on all year long when we talk about starts and sits. As soon as we see that, what they're going against, and we're like, oh, Arizona, start that guy up, because this is going to be this team is absolutely depleted. Not just like entirely, but definitely defensively. So yeah, Jahan Dotson, and then you throw in the factor that McLaurin might not play. That's a surefire start. I love it.
Yeah, big fan of the take. Nothing to add other than I would have probably taken Jahan Dotson for my start this week if you hadn't gotten in there first, Johnny.
I got to it first. Okay,
you just grabbed him
this
first.
Has got to be just like such low hanging fruit. So I have Dotson, Kirk, or Ayuk, and I'm honestly thinking about starting Dotson over Kirk and Ayuk, even though obviously I drafted Dotson after both of them. But Ayuk, if Kittle doesn't play, I feel like he gets a bump too. So big decisions with that one.
Against the Steelers though too, so their defense, not the steel curtain days, but still could be better than they have been the last couple of years if you want to play the matchup game. But Kittle missing time definitely boosts Ayuk. But I think those are good questions like the community's going to have. Like, do we start Dotson over these type of players? I would probably. I'm in Dynasty, like I have Kirk and Ayuk and London, and I'm trying to figure out between those 3 guys. Right now, I think I have Kirk over Ayuk for your hypothetical, but it's super close. And I would probably, for the record,
Dotson above.
I would probably. I was going to say I'd probably go Dotson over either of those guys.
If McLaurin sits, you start Dotson.
Even if he's healthy, but like not completely
limited.
Healthy.
Limited. Yeah. And I think Howell's going to go out there playing like he's got something to prove and won't be afraid to just like, toss it around. So we'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, actually, I was very close to making Sam Howell my start of the week, but that seemed a little spicy week 1. So
he's probably on waivers in most leagues. Maybe a sleeper kid.
Yeah, definitely on waivers. And if you're starting Sam Howell week 1, you're in a hole. So. Let's go to the sits. Plenty of sits this week. We only picked a few hand dozen. Blake, why don't you start us off for some sits?
Yeah, I'll make this short and sweet. It's a guy that you're really high on, John, and me and Johnny are a little less high on him. I don't think he's going to have that bad of a year overall, but this first week against the 49ers, I don't like Najee Harris. Just because that Niners defense is just absolutely
Yeah.
Miserable for running backs. And, we can go off last year's stats. I don't think too much has changed on that defense. If anything, they could be better. Just with another year together, and they're just going to be really, really good. They were the worst matchup for running backs last year. They allowed only 11.2 points a week to the position. I mean, that's every running back that plays for the opposing team in that week only gave up 11.2 points per week.
Wow.
So Najee's going to need a lot of volume to overcome that matchup. And, a lot of people might peg him to get that volume, but I don't see it really happening. This year as a whole, I don't think he's going to get as much volume as he has in years past with the emergence of Warren. I think Warren actually eats into that snap share a little bit. But even if he gets 20 touches, I don't like it this week just because of how beastly that defensive front is.
So I know you have him as a sit, but I'm curious to see where your line is. Najee or Miles Sanders?
Let's see. They're playing the Falcons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would throw Sanders out there. I wouldn't love them either of them as an RB1, but if I'm throwing somebody in the RB2, I'm going Sanders, and that's probably the cutoff. Then Sanders and then Najee.
What about Najee, Alexander Madison, Tampa?
Yeah.
I'd probably roll with. Tampa does still have that good run defense, right?
Yeah, but I like Madison to catch some balls too. It's close. I would go Madison, honestly, this week.
Wow. It's pretty hard to sit a guy you probably drafted in this, on the 2-3 turn.
Yeah.
Sometimes 2-3 turn, yeah.
Yeah. So I expected to kind of the 49ers were amazing against fantasy running backs last year, so I get it.
But here's the deal,
go ahead.
Najee hate start early and often. I fucking love it.
It's already starting. Yeah, the hate is fully rolling right now. But honestly, if you don't have Najee on your team, I mean, he could be a potential buy after week 1. We can talk about that maybe after the games play out this week. But I like because I don't think it's gonna define his season if he has one bad week. But yeah, this week's not it.
Okay, Jonny, how about your sit of the week?
My sit of the week, and this kind of is a bug for me because I got him in a deeper league. We're both in. I'm in with you guys in a 12 team, and he should plug in as my second flex, but he's not going to because I'm going to sit him, and that's Juju versus Philadelphia Eagles. They've just loaded up on D-line, and I think that's a great play because it gives a quarterback less time to throw. I think that they have more pass rushers that are quality than almost the whole NFL combined at this point. It's crazy. And they're up against, their starting right tackle for the Patriots was a backup tackle for the Denver Broncos last year. As a Broncos fan, woof.
Yeah.
I think Mac will struggle to get the ball downfield. The corners will be sitting on the underneath stuff, and that's where Juju normally eats. So you combine that with potentially him being shadowed by Darius Slay, I'm out on him.
Yeah, and I don't think anything really screams sexy about this Patriots offense. I don't really know how they're going to make the jump this year to be better. We'll have to see. I like Juju as a sit. If I could sit him every single week, I would. Blake.
Yeah, I mean, sort of opposite of the Kirk Cousins point I made. The only reason that I would maybe disagree is just because they're going to be throwing the ball in the second half. I think the Eagles will be way up, and Mac Jones, regardless of whether or not he's effective, he's going to be throwing the ball a lot. But if they can sit underneath, and Juju, even though he would be the security blanket there, if the corners are sitting underneath, especially, I don't know, is Slay gonna shadow him if Juju's in the slot or if he's bouncing around? We'll see. But yeah, I don't like Juju probably all year even, but especially this week.
Okay, all right. I agree with that. I'm gonna go with.
I feel like he fell in that league, so I don't like him either. But I was just at this point, he is the wide
just
receiver
pick up a guy
on that offense by a mile.
Yeah.
Did you hear about the report that his knee's just gonna blow at any minute though? That was weird. That was the craziest headline I've read in a long time. Dude.
Some clickbait.
It was clicky for sure.
But it's funny that it had the reporter's name and everything. It was just if I was Juju, I would have called him up and been like, "What the fuck, dude? Who was that out of nowhere?"
I have not seen this.
Shade.
I have
Yeah,
not seen
dude.
this report. His knee was about to
You should
blow.
put-
It was like a
Or
beat
it could
writer.
blow at any time or something. Yeah, I think it
Could
was.
you make an edit for this video, the thumbnail of the video, like Juju's knee blowing up at him?
I mean, I could
Yeah.
do my best. I don't know how Juju would feel if he ever looked at this video, but
Yeah.
okay.
Probably
Well,
will. He loves
Juju's
this
lurking
shit.
on the internet too.
Yes.
He's-
Yeah, bro. He's gonna find you on Twitter and he's gonna let you have it.
Yeah.
All right. The final sit for me, and I think this one is going to hit home because I feel like a lot of people are going to try to force this guy into their lineup on Thursdays because we've waited so long for fantasy football. And if you have Isaiah Pacheco as your RB3, you might slide him into a flex position because you just want to root for somebody in this game. But I'm telling you, if you want to win this week, please don't do that. I think Isaiah Pacheco would be a fine player, but this is a guy that's been recovering from injury all offseason. I don't exactly know how this backfield's going to split. Again, he's a 7th round pick. He's not a 2nd round pick that, one coaching staff over. This guy was a lottery pick that ended up being a pretty good player. And we don't really know how this touch share and timeshare in this backfield is going to play out. And the Lions actually caught a little fire. They were actually getting ran on quite often last year, but somewhere in the middle of the season, kind of a switch went off, and that kind of just all stopped. So they ended the season as a pretty good run defense, and I don't think it's going to be as easy as you might think. So let's just wait and see on Pacheco. Let's keep him on your bench. Don't jump the gun because you want to throw somebody in the Thursday night game and root for somebody in this game. If you're trying to win, keep Isaiah Pacheco on your bench.
Yeah, he's super touchdown dependent. Like the only way he does well for you is if he gets the end zone this week. I don't think he's going to catch any balls. That's always been the knock. And coming off the injury, yeah, I think it's safe to fade him this early in the season. And to your point, yeah, the Lions defense was way better. I remember trying to capitalize on that matchup last year. They just got gashed like the first 6 weeks, and then I started using that as like a play. I would play maybe a less talented running back against that defense, and it bit me a couple times later in the season. They finished the year really strong, and their momentum, I think they're higher than any other team in terms of potentially taking a step forward, both offensively and defensively this year. So I like the fade.
I'll play devil's advocate. List just a couple considerations. Like Kelsey's probably not going to play. That might make them pivot, lean on the ground game a little more. They only have 3 active running backs, including Pacheco, which is McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Hilarious. I mean, yeah, he's a 1st round pick, but who gives a crap? Like the guy's bad. So I think if they're running the ball, he is going to be the guy running.
This guy stinks!
Yeah, and I could see him scoring a touchdown because I do think the Chiefs offense will move the ball. They might throw the ball up and down the field and not even be able to run it, but I think they will move the ball against the Lions, and he could fall into the end zone. Like you said, that's the only way to get you some value, but it's a great offense to bet on someone falling into the end zone as their back. So if you are absolutely stuck with him, not the end of the world.
I think you made a good point. Some news just broke, I would say, about an hour ago about Kelsey. His ACL's intact. He's uncertain where he's going to play Thursday. That might change the game plan for the Chiefs overall, but I just don't see Isaiah Pacheco being a huge part of that game plan with him being, injured for majority of the offseason. The Chiefs are one of these teams that it could be anyone, any week of the, like I can see Sky Moore catching 2 touchdowns a week. It's going to be really hard to predict this offense. It's going to be all over the place all week. So putting starts and sits on these Chiefs is going to be pretty hard. But if they fall into the end zone, it could work out.
I could see Sky Moore running one in.
Yeah.
To your point.
Jet sweep.
Ooh.
They could just a little jet sweep.
Little touch pass.
Shovel pass. Noah Gray. Kelsey's not playing, but guess who is? Mahomes is playing. So they will throw the ball.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's actually going to be it for week 1 starts and sits. Guys, we're going to do plenty more of these all year long. Do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, and we will see you in the next video. See you guys.